LaRae, we've talked to a lot of patients about a statement that they have received about their final balance. And how many times have you spoken to that patient and they have expressed that they were not prepared to owe anything, basically? Like, they were told that their insurance was being billed, but they didn't understand that there was going to be anything left over after the insurance was billed.
Oh, you mean the old, well, we'll just bill your insurance special?
Everybody's stoked about the entire interaction, and then boom, like AR is on fire because apparently nobody ever told the patient that they might have to pay something.
Yeah, it's like cleaning your house, but never taking out the trash. It looks great until it doesn't, or it starts to stink. So welcome to the Truth Decay podcast, talking dollars and cents with Sarah Baker and LaRae McMullen.
Today's episode is for our front desk warriors. We always are talking to you guys because you are the front line, basically, for a dental practice's revenue.
Yeah, we're talking about how patient intake, verification, and communication either set you up to succeed or to scramble.
Because it doesn't matter how fast your claim submission is, if nobody ever effectively talked to the patient about payment, right? Like, it's literally what can bring a practice's collections percentage down to barely scraping by.
All right, let's break this down. What's really going wrong at the front office that ends up wrecking billing?
So avoidance plays a huge part. And like, we talk about this, I think, frequently, like this sort of issue, this, concept about avoidance in offices, and how I kind of feel like in a lot of ways, avoidance is the opposite of a system, in some ways, because a system you're confident in. You do it the same way every time. You're facing things that sometimes could be uncomfortable, but you're comfortable with it because it's routine, right?
Yeah.
I kind of see it as offices that have a culture of avoidance and a culture of accountability. And so offices that have a culture of accountability, some of the hallmarks of those are they meet issues head on. They communicate and talk about issues, and they kind of call each other in from the top down. So a doctor might talk to their front about maybe they overheard something like, can we touch bases about how you, discussed an estimated patient portion with that patient? And like, everybody's open to that, but also that doctor hopefully is open to feedback from their staff members too about, how maybe they spoke to a patient or something, some way they're charting something, right?
Yeah.
So it's being open with your communication through the whole office, being unafraid to have tough conversations. Also, to look at processes and ask yourself constantly, can we do better? Right? I really think that that's, again, a hallmark of a culture of accountability versus a culture of avoidance, right? Which is the opposite of that in a lot of ways. Leaning more towards defensiveness when we're talking about anything that calls into question something that the office is currently doing, right? More closed off, less likely to want to communicate because some of those processes are either being called into question or there's a feeling that they're being called into question, right? They are more likely to guard those processes and systems no matter their efficacy. They are less likely to be looking at reports because the reports might tell them something that they don't want to talk about. And they're going to cling to processes like just because, So I say all of that because a culture of avoidance can absolutely play a part in these processes that make it harder to communicate with patients effectively about potential financial responsibilities, right? Something's missing. You're avoiding having a potentially uncomfortable, again, this podcast is about billing, right? So we talk about money a lot. We talk about potential financial responsibility for patients. That is an uncomfortable subject inherently, I think, sometimes for people. And it's a tough one. And if you are dealing with an office that leans toward having a culture of avoidance, and this is something that you see them having a tough time with this, right? Sometimes it's a lack of training. It's a lack of time. It's just not having a system that makes it easy to have the money conversation. And I guess my argument after that whole diatribe is that having a culture of accountability means you are more than likely to have a lot of those issues handled, or you're more open to being able to handle those things. And having a culture of avoidance makes it a lot harder to handle those things. That's what we're talking about today, is kind of some of those bits that are missing that hopefully we're going to be able to help you start to address and fix.
Yeah, and that's kind of where leadership really matters, right? Because if the front desk doesn't have the tools or the scripting, then they're left guessing, and guesswork can lead to gaps or avoidance.
Yeah, and we've seen front office staff who want to do a great job. Like, I would argue most office staff wants to do a great job. They care.
Yeah.
But they are juggling phones, check-ins, scheduling. Like, they're doing a lot of stuff, and they're just not set up necessarily without a system, without a process that they're doing routinely to collect effectively.
In this episode, we are going to highlight how vital they are in the collections process, and we do need to spotlight where some of the breakdowns happen. Avoidance can be a factor, yes, but also missing systems and support is a really big factor.
Yes, absolutely. So here's a real story. So one of our insurance-only clients, right? Because doing outsourced billing, you can kind of have us handle like different parts of the billing process. And so some of our clients have us only do insurance services, which is just handling all of like the insurance shenanigans, right? So one of our clients, we were only doing insurance, and they had a super, super amazing office manager, had been with the practice for like 20 years, great with patients, literally like knew every single patient that came into the office, by name, by face, remembered, their lives, like talked to every single person when they came in. A huge reason that like people continued to come to the office, right, was the way that this office manager made them feel. But she did not ever ask for money from the patients. Like, never. It was never part of the conversation to sit down and say, okay, here's your estimated patient portion. Like, it was all personality and no admin, like at all.
So what was happening was by July or August, the insurance maxes were starting to be met. Claims were starting to no pay, but patients hadn't been told that they might owe anything. They felt great coming into the office and speaking with that front desk person. They had a great chat. They felt relaxed in the moment. But then when the claims were denied, their account balances were super high. Statements weren't going out on a regular basis, but when statements would go out, patients would call upset and confused. And instead of having that tough conversation, that can was kicked further down the road. Maybe they would resubmit the claim. Maybe they would look into it. Anything to keep the peace, kicking that can down the road.
Exactly. So I want to mention here briefly a key performance indicator, a KPI, that I want every dentist to know. We're actually going to be talking about KPIs, which you should absolutely be tracking monthly. Like, you should be looking at these things. We're going to be talking about them in a future episode, the ones that you should be paying attention to. But a little teaser is something called the AR ratio. So the AR ratio is you should take your total AR and divide it by your monthly production. So, and that equals your AR ratio. And it should equal as close to 1.0 as possible. So so do it. Like, go do it right now. Like, figure out your total AR and then divide it by your monthly production and see what number you get. So if you're between 1.0 and like 1.5, you're doing great, sweetie. You're doing great, right? If you are below 1.0, like go give your staff a bonus. They're doing amazing. They are collecting out of their minds for you. Or if it's like way below, maybe hold off on that bonus and kind of see what's going on. Because
do a little investigating.
Do a little investigating because that's a little suspicious. If you are 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, sit down and look at it because that's too high. Like something is happening. There's stuff living on your AR that should not be there, right? So like if you're running a $200,000 a month practice and your AR is 150,000, your AR ratio is 0.75. Amazing.
Great.
Right? In this case, right, the one that we're talking about with this office manager, their AR ratio was creeping past 2.0 on a regular basis. So when they were finally starting to bill patients, when that AR ratio was going really high, there would be a massive amounts of adjustments. And that's because the patients were calling and they were upset. And to keep the peace, to keep everyone happy, instead of being able to collect on those balances that were like rightfully due, she was just writing off a bunch of stuff, right? And I don't even think, if memory serves, she wasn't even like aware of how much she was writing off. She was just sort of on a case-by-case basis going like, oh, no, I remember that. Like, we'll just take care of that for you, right? And also, they weren't reviewing adjustment reports for the month. And so not seeing like the totality of those adjustments. And sure, it was like helping with the AR ratio, it was getting that AR down, but that does not mean that real money was being collected, right? Yeah. So basically like thousands of dollars were gone, you know?
Yeah, because the conversation that should have happened before treatment, it never happened. And by the time it did come up, the patients felt blindsided. And it's really such a simple thing.
So this is what we mean by front desk to cash flow, right? Like if the process breaks down at the start, you are in trouble all the way down, like especially at the end.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not that the front desk is avoiding these conversations. It's that no one taught them how. Or they're double booked and haven't been given space to handle it right. We're talking about answering the phones all the time, people in front of you, you know, that's super, super common. Or maybe they're just confused or not about what the doctor's priorities are, how the doctor would like them to handle those situations.
And I think that's an example of a culture of avoidance versus a culture of accountability, right?
Yeah.
Because in a culture of accountability, we are open to new things. We are communicating about stuff. We have systems in place for these things, or we're open to systems, right? And in a culture of avoidance, we are kind of scrambling and spinning in circles and just putting fires out where we see them, right? Yeah. And I would argue that it's still a systems issue, right? Like if your front desk doesn't have the time to verify benefits, explain estimates, collect, still create that excellent patient experience, it's your systems that are failing, right? Like because I've seen examples where all of this stuff is possible to do in an office successfully and still have time to create that excellent patient experience, like that office manager that was so important to her, and not sacrifice the other things.
Yeah, and that failure gets expensive. Uncollected balances pile up, insurance maxes hit, statements go out late, and guess who ends up eating the cost?
The practice owner. Yeah. Like every single time. Chair time, materials, expertise, written off, right? Because someone skipped a 5-minute conversation, right? Or if it's not written off, you're faced with collecting on someone who is like actively pissed, right? And we've trust us, we've spoken to these people like many times. Yep. And you're faced with collecting on somebody who sometimes that's more costly than the write-off, right? You're losing a patient from coming in the future, and it's the goodwill and actively creating like bad will, right? Like sometimes the write-off is the path of least resistance, honestly.
Yeah. And let's say it louder. Patients aren't scared of money talks. We talk about this all the time. They're not scared of money talks. They're scared of surprise bills. And when the front desk avoids or fumbles, that's exactly what they get.
If you don't equip front desk teams with training, time, and tools, you're setting them up to fail and setting the whole office up for a financial roller coaster.
Yeah.
So let's talk processes, right? So like, what does a front desk flow look like when it actually works for billing success?
We'll start with a pre-appointment. We verify insurance at least 3 days before. We've kind of talked about this in a previous episode, using a targeted appointment approach. Make sure that treatment for that appointment, all information is entered directly into your system, and your practice management system is working for you, not against you. So it's not just about gathering a whole bunch of information. It's about pointed, targeted information that you're getting, and you're updating the system at that same time. So when that, when the patient comes in and you're talking to them about it, everything that's printing out, ideal, easiest way to talk to them.
Yep. And the information that's in the system is as useful as it can possibly be.
Right.
Yeah. So another tip is to send intake forms ahead of time, right? Like digital is best. In fact, I know a lot of offices even have their intake forms like on their websites, which is very cool. But if you can, send them to patients, and if they can send them back to you, awesome. If not, maybe they can print it and bring it in, right? That's fine too. But like try to get that done so when they come in, it's just ready to go. And then you at the front desk can just like start inputting it and getting that in the system as accurately and quickly as possible.
Yeah. So like at the check-in, you're going to want to greet that patient warmly, but you still do want to get down to business. So you're going to ask them for ID. You're going to confirm the appointment, collect the estimated copay, make it a routine, and you don't even have to think about it when you do it.
Speaking of routine, this is where scripting starts to save you. I know that it's a little bit of a joke that, especially when I was talking to patients about balances, that I could kind of make a little bit of like a soundboard of myself and just play little clips of myself, and the conversation could absolutely make sense because I would say the same things every single time. Same way, same inflection, same everything. So like, you don't want to sound like a robot. You just want to sound like you know what you're doing, you know? So you don't need to guess, right? Like the example is, we estimate that your insurance is going to pay $600. Today, your portion is $225. We're going to go ahead and process that for you right now. There's no, what do you want to do? There's nothing. Yeah, it just is what it is. And again, you hopefully are in a situation where you are confident about the estimate and the benefits that are being calculated in your system. That's where your verification is going to help you greatly. That's why it's like so important that you have some kind of verification solution, and it's going to help you communicate effectively and be able to address this topic that we're talking about, right? When you're confident, it's so much easier to do this.
Yeah, love that. Confident, clear. If they push back, stay grounded. This is an estimate. Insurance isn't a guarantee, it's a supplement.
And this is so important. Walk the patient through what to expect. So next, we're going to submit to your claim to the insurance company. We are going to follow up on it for you. We're going to wait for that payment or the explanation of benefits to arrive. And then if there's anything left over, one thing I like to say, by the way, is again, reiterate, this is just an estimate. You know, your insurance might actually pay more than we are estimating here because this is just an estimate. So when all is said and done, we might actually owe you a credit, right? We might owe you a refund. However, in the case that they pay less than we're estimating, we're going to send you a final bill, right? So just be aware of that. And, you know, I know that there's some instances where they can securely store a credit card on file for future balances. To be honest with you, I feel like that's a little sketchy sometimes. I don't know the legality of that. I'm not a lawyer. Don't pretend to be a lawyer. So I don't know about that. But like the bottom line is prepping the patient for the eventuality that there might be a final balance due and stating it as a fact, not skipping it, having it in your head that this is something that you're going to say to them, and just make it routine. That way it's just a fact, right? The sky is blue, water is wet. You may owe a balance once your claim is processed. Simple.
And also those walkout slips, they matter. Patients leave with clarity. They're not guessing. There's no chaos later. As Sarah was saying, when they leave, like maybe you don't want to securely store a card because, again, not lawyers, we don't know. But you could even have something in your routine that says, like, when you get your statement, if you owe, you can go ahead and pay on the website if you have that capability.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yep. And let's not forget, office, like make sure that you are then submitting that claim quickly, routinely, right? There are other processes in place that should be happening, like the treatment should be posted same day. Day sheet should be reviewed for accuracy. Those clinical notes should be going in there, and the claim should be submitted within like a business day or two. Right. And confirmed successfully submitted. So all of that should be happening. And if everything we've talked about up to this point, like patient has been prepped, claim submitted successfully, you are so far ahead of the game. Like that's great.
Yeah. And that, the we'll just bill your insurance mentality, if you happen to be stuck in that, please get out of it. It's not doing you any favors. That's not a system. That is a culture of avoidance. So you need a process, but not procrastination.
Yeah. And use tools, like use electronic claim submissions. I literally can't believe, no offense, genuinely no offense, I can't believe some offices don't use electronic claim submissions. Some still don't. If you don't, like, call us. And just at least like talk to us about why. I would love to have a conversation with you about why. Same with statements, right? Use electronic statement capability. So you have the option at least, right? Outsource these tasks if you need to, right? I mean, that's an option. And when I say that, companies like ours exist for a reason. And if your team can't manage statements monthly, find someone who can. Again, the sky is blue, water is wet. Your statements need to go out monthly. Period. End of story. And if it's not happening, you have to find a solution for it. If you don't have a solution for it, you are losing money. You are losing money. I don't know how,
how else you could say it better.
it is what it is.
Well, talking about electronic things, let's talk a little bit about practice management softwares. Learn to use your practice management software well, because there's so many, they're all a little different, but there's so many little pieces, and depending on what you have and what, if you're not utilizing the kind of help behind it, let's say you have EagleSoft, there's a chat feature. You don't even have to get on a call and wait to talk to anybody. If you have any questions, like, hey, we normally send statements like this, but I'm thinking that blah, 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 right? Like I had a question about, they are there to help you. There's a lot you can Google, but bottom line, learn how to use your practice management software as well as you possibly can. Targeted appointment types, accurate insurance entry, and synced fee schedules change everything.
It kind of blows my mind when I also see offices sometimes still like manually figuring out treatment plans and stuff, because they're doing verification solutions that don't actually get put into the system. Yeah. It's that separate full exhaustive breakdown that we've talked about. Right. And so the stuff that's going into the treatment plan is not matching what the actual benefits are going to be. So your software can do that for you. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And you pay for it to do that. Those softwares are not cheap. So if you're paying for it, learn how to use all of its features.
And I mean, like the last thing that train your team, train your team to utilize the tools that you have available to you. So sit down, figure out your treatment planning, right? Like really play with it, rehearse these conversations, normalize money talks, come up with scripts. If you can talk about nasty periodontal disease, you can talk about payments. I'm serious. Like if some of the complexities of like treatment and disease that go on in dental offices, just literally saying that something is an estimate, you can do it. I promise.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, no one is winning if the front desk is just guessing their way through the day, scrambling or avoiding the real talk. Literally no one.
Because ultimately, front desk sets the tone, right? You guys are the front line. You're the first faces they see and the last faces they see. And patients are not just booking appointments, right, with you. Like, you guys are prepping the entire payment path with them.
Mm-hmm. And if you're skipping insurance checks and not collecting up front and dodging the financial conversation, then you're actually doing the office damage.
The fix isn't like magic, it's consistency. So train the talk, use scripts, set a standard.
Avoidance costs money and clarity earns it every single time. All right, Sarah, so what are the top takeaways for today?
So your front desk process paves the way for your billing process, like, period. So treat it like it matters, because it does.
And money conversations aren't rude. They're actually respectful. Patients prefer clarity over surprise.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get paid, start when the patient walks in, not after insurance sends their EOB.
Yeah.
So, LaRae, what are 2 action steps that our listeners can take right now?
Well, I would say make sure you're sending statements every single month. And if you're not, why are you not? If your team can't handle it in-house, find somebody who can. Get a service that can. We do this. It's very common. We are not the only company that does it. I think it's almost more common than you probably even think if
Absolutely.
You're not doing it already.
Yeah. I would say also, like, again, figure out your AR ratio. This is something that you can do very easily. And I don't want to blow your mind or hurt your feelings, but again, take your total AR. So go run your AR total and then divide it by your monthly production. So it's going to change every month, right?
Yeah.
So maybe go back and figure out maybe like the last few months and see if there's a trend or whatever. But if it's above 1.5, dig into that. What is happening? Look at the columns. Is it mostly in the 90? Is it mostly in the 0 to 29? Like, where is it? So find the breakdown and really try to fix the system before it costs you more. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for listening today. If you liked what you heard today, why wouldn't you? Come on. Consider subscribing on whatever platform you are listening to us to right now. You can send us an email at hello@thetruthDecayPodcast.com or check us out at SD as in Dennis, SD, dentalsolutions.com. We'd love to answer your questions, address any issues that you have. I'll tell you what lipstick I'm wearing. You have to email though. Send us an email.
But you can also find us on LinkedIn, both Sarah, myself, and SD Dental Solutions. And you can find us on Instagram and Facebook.
That is it. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.